Hello everyone and welcome back to Vet Chats, where we help veterans share their awesome stories and make the veteran community a better place. I hope you'll stay tuned to hear how this generation is continuing to serve. Vet Chats is now available on Reach Across America Radio, where we will be played Mondays at 9 p.m. and Saturdays at 3 p.m. They have a ton of great veteran content that I know you'll appreciate. You can find them on Reach Across America website, iHeartRadio, or the Odyssey. Also, quick reminder, if you are a female veteran who has ever served in California, you're currently serving, and even if you've served in California and you left, you live somewhere else, please consider taking the California Female Veteran Survey. The VA is putting this out to hear the voices of women veterans to help improve their facilities for female veterans, which we know we need. We know we need that, so have your voice be heard. You can find that link in my bio, and if you have any questions, please reach out. Hello everyone. I hope you had a great weekend. 3-day weekend for most of us. I had a 4-day weekend. I get every other Friday off, so yeah, it's been a nice break. Awesome. So I see our guest has joined, so let me introduce him. So Mark Harper is an Emmy-award winning Air Force veteran. He's the general manager of military and defense at Recurrent Ventures. During his military service, Captain Harper led teams of combat-ready photojournalists across deployments in support of Operation Iraqi and Enduring Freedom. I'm excited to talk about that. And his work before Recurrent included marketing roles at Hollywood studios, including Technicolor and Paramount Pictures. So our guest is a big deal. I'm excited to have him on. I met him at the Military Influencer Conference, and we'll probably be talking about that as well. So let's get Mark on. After G Mark. Sometimes it takes a little bit. We'll get him on. Hey everyone. Mark.
Hi there.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good, you called me a big deal. That was fun.
How was your weekend?
So far, so good.
Awesome. You got a good back. Is that a real background?
That's a real background with
Wow.
military-related paraphernalia, challenge coins galore,
And the Emmy,
and the
out loud
Emmy.
and proud.
Yep, there it is.
That's incredible. So did you make your move yet? Are you on the East
Yeah,
Coast yet, or
I am here on the East Coast. I'm in the DMV,
the DM?
officially in Virginia.
Wait,
Yeah,
okay. Serious question. And I asked my husband this today. What does DMV stand for? Is the D Delaware or is it DC?
it's DC.
It is?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay. I'll take your word for it, because I was just like,
But now you got
wait,
me
I always
guessing.
thought it was Delaware, and then today I'm like, what if it's DC?
I'm
I don't know, but
pretty sure it's DC.
how's it going for you? How do you like this vibe? Because you're coming from
So
LA.
I am coming from the greater Los Angeles region, but I grew up in upstate New York, so I'm not too foreign to this type of weather. But it was a little bit of a culture shock coming back from there to here.
Right. I think you could handle the weather, but the culture is completely, completely different. Maybe LA's more laid back, I would
A little
think.
more laid back. I've already been to two full suit events since I've been here in the last 3 weeks, and I don't think I've in like the 15 years I was in Los Angeles, I don't think I really ever wore a full suit. Just it's not how they really roll out there.
No, they like to be very professional here. You're gonna have those type events. That's awesome though. How's the family doing? Everyone made the move okay?
Great. Everyone's doing wonderful.
Awesome. That's great to hear. So you mentioned that you were from upstate New York.
Upstate
What
New
area?
York. So
What
Saratoga
area?
Springs, Albany.
Okay, I know
Albany being
Albany.
the capital. Yep, right in the middle. If you
Yeah.
are from like New York City, you would consider us in Canada. But other than that, yeah, we're
Right.
the allegedly the summer place to be is Saratoga's slogan, or it was when I was growing up.
Okay. Lots of summer camps out there then?
The track, the thoroughbred racetrack,
Like horse
horse
racing?
racing. Yeah.
Ooh, there's some money in that. Yeah. So from there, how did you end up joining the Air Force?
Yeah, I joined the Air Force doing an ROTC scholarship. So I went to school at Rensselaer Polytech Institute, or RPI. They're really like a nerdy engineering school in upstate New York. And it was there that I got commissioned and I became a communications officer right before September 11th.
Whoa. So that was so you had already commissioned before it happened?
I had commissioned, I was in, I had joined a peacetime organization, and about 3 months into me being in the Air Force, the war kicked off when the towers came down.
And what were you hearing that day? Was it like, okay, we're going over there, or was it
I
confusing?
had so I did two things in the Air Force. The second one is what actually led me to Los Angeles. The first one, I was a deployable communications officer, so I had a kind of a unique experience in that I'm one of the few jobs in the Air Force outside of pilots, obviously, who the second something like this happens, my squadron would forward deploy to set up a base. So
Right.
I mean, really, we were built for exactly this scenario. So on September 11th, I was driving out of the base. It took about 4 hours to get on
Mm.
base because of all the heightened security. And then the very next day, uh, the uh, the squadron commander brought us all in and was like, "We don't know who did this, but we're gonna go find them and we're gonna go kick their ass. Half of you are deploying in the next couple of days." And so I think there were 180 people that actually deployed within the week, and they were kind of forward staging. And where were they? It's classified. I just don't remember. But uh, that was the job, was to go out there and establish like a presence someplace and bring everything from communications to every service to land, aircraft, bring in fuel, bring in bullets, etc. And it was a very interesting first couple of months in the Air Force. I was not one of the people that deployed, but my like training got sped up at that point because everyone went over, and then I was put in charge of, I guess, the those who stayed home.
Yes, yeah. Also, I mean, I think it would be crazy to be one of the first people over there because nothing's set up. You're trying to set it up.
Yeah.
You're getting mixed messages. Where are we supposed to be? Is this the right spot? So maybe it's better that you went. So you eventually went over there to.
Yeah, so I was in, I was a communications officer doing this like deployable comm stuff, and I started doing a lot of really what I would call really dumb videos that were mostly for like morale events, poking fun at the commanders or something. I mean, you name it. If there was a change of command or if there was a retirement, they would call me and I would do something about it, or something for it rather, that would be like screened in front of, 400 to 1,000 people. And because I kept doing these things, one day a colonel said, "You're really good at this video stuff." And I'm like, "No, sir, I'm not good at it. I'm great at it. Is there any place else in the Air Force I can do this?" And he's like, "As a matter of fact, there's this thing called combat camera." So I had not heard of it until then. Uh, but that was my second assignment in Charleston, South Carolina. I deployed twice. So I deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2000 and, oh, this makes me old, 2005 and 6, and then in Operation Enduring Freedom in 2006 and 7.
Okay, so backing up a little bit, in South Carolina, is that combat camera? Is that a school then,
Uh,
or is that training?
no, combat camera is the name of the squadron, and then,
Okay.
well, name of the squadron, name of the function. So there was combat camera, there was combat camera in all the services, and the Air Force, I think because we just had more funding than the other services, we were generally, an Air Force officer was generally in charge in a joint environment like a war. And so that put me in charge of a whole slew of Army and Navy folk when I first got out there, who were all combat camera as well in their
Mm.
respective um, platoons, groups, you name it.
Oh, that's nice. So you could work with kind of all the different branches.
I did. It was a very purple environment, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah, and what was kind of your day to day like? in charge of these people?
in while deployed.
Yeah, well deployed.
Yeah. So we get like task orders to go shoot any number of things. So we were like the eyes and ears on the ground for commanders back at the Pentagon, uh, commanders there in theater. We were there for psychological operations. We were there for public affairs. We were there for like historical imagery gathering, and we were there for legal reasons. So any
Mhm.
number of those things. So like day one when I first got there, uh, I had I think a lieutenant colonel come into. We were in trailers outside of the big palaces. We were at Camp Victory, and he said, "Captain, I need a video and a photo guy." And I'm like, "Yes, sir. What's this for?" And he's like, "Nope." I what do you mean, nope? And he's like, you don't get to ask those questions. Give them to me now. I'm like, all right, welcome to war. So I grabbed a videographer and photographer, and off they went. And what they did is they videotaped and they shot Saddam's first trial. So
You're kidding.
that's the kind of neat stuff that happens in war.
When
That's your thing.
when did you find out? Like, did they come back and tell you,
Yeah, they
or
came back and they were like, whoa. And they were the only people that were allowed to shoot audio. So there's no other audio except for what combat camera shot that day in the courtroom. Kind of nuts.
that is, and is that in the public now? Can
That isn't, but
uh,
I mean, for those who've like heard, read, seen clips of like other arraignments or other court related settings he's in, he largely didn't recognize them, so they would ask him questions, and he'd be like, "No, I'm not talking to you. I don't even like this whole thing is a joke. I'm not doing this." And they would just like start calling on individual people, and I mean, like the translators were like going wild back and forth on what everyone's saying.
yeah.
At least
I
this is
mean,
what they tell me.
what could you really expect? I mean, that sounds pretty on brand for.
It was very on brand, but it was also kind of weird that like he was there on the camp that we were at, and you learn this not because they tell you because it's supposed to be very classified while you're there,
Hmm.
but like you learn this like as you first get there, like oh my gosh, he is here and on this base somewhere, and I mean these are just kind of like very uniquely war things that happen.
Is there anything that you found out after the fact, or maybe years later, that maybe your team was involved in, or
Well,
any
gonna I'm
factor?
gonna I'm gonna flip that question
Okay.
to um so I had just gotten there a couple months after, and I don't know if you would remember this, but there was this big scandal at Abu Ghraib. Abu Ghraib being one of the large prisons that they have there. It's in Baghdad, or south of Baghdad, and the scandal was we had American soldiers that were taking photos of Iraqis naked or doing weird things, posing them and such. And like it was really bad, very tasteless.
Okay. This
And these
kind of
got
rings a bell.
yeah, and these guys got leaked on the internet, and there were big like news articles about it, and there was like many like IG complaints were launched, and a whole lot of bad things happened. And so I get a tasking because there was any number of things we were doing there of all those like functions I outlined earlier. Um, one of these things was we were documenting the Iraqis as they were voting for the very first time in their country. So this big Iraqi referendum was taking place. And while it was my job to document the entirety of that, uh, there were pre-votes that were taking place for whatever reason at the prison itself. So I get told, go take your camera crew and go to Abu Ghraib and document these prisoners voting. And I'm like, let me get this straight, sir. You want me to go take camera people to the place that had this international uh, spotlight on it like 2 months ago because of the cameras that were taking pictures of all the Iraqi soldiers.
Yeah.
This is going to make me the most popular person in all of Baghdad. And they were like, yes, you have to go shoot this. So we walked in, and there's just like, this isn't like what your traditional prison would look like. This is sea wire
Mhm.
just up in like rows, and then they were section off prisoners, and they categorized them 1 through 4. I think one, I could be getting this wrong, but one was petty larceny up to 4 is do not get too close to the sea wire because they will grab you and pull you through and kill you. And I didn't quite know the difference between the different versions, but I could tell you that every single person that looked at me and my camera people looked like they were 4s. They all wanted to kill us. And it was kind of like I could see as we were like walking along and they're staring at us. In fact, I have some incredible imagery from this. I'll send this to you.
Yeah.
Um, it was fascinating just to be a part of this part of history. Spoiler, none of them voted. They walked up to their like voting ballots and then they just tore them up and then they threw them out and then walked away. Yes, very symbolic of the times.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But also, even correct me if I'm wrong, but prisoners, not all prisoners, can people in prison vote in America?
Yes. Well, actually, it depends.
I know some lose their rights, so that's
Yeah,
crazy that even those harsh criminals, those level fours, are still able to
but
vote.
well, I mean, a lot of it was like a big publicity stunt for
Oh,
them. I mean, what they were trying to demonstrate is, and I think they're giving everyone the right to vote at that moment in time, was because it was so anti the entire establishment before that, right? And so Um, I think they were just trying to say, look, democracy is going to prevail and everyone gets a role in deciding who will be in
okay.
government next.
That
Didn't
makes a lot of sense.
quite work exactly, I think, as they were anticipating, but we hope springs eternal.
Right, right. And you got some good images out of it, and they got some publicity out of it.
Yeah.
So, so what do you do? What does one do after doing photography, imagery, documenting all of these roles in the military? What was your goal after that, or why did you get out?
Well, I mean, it was the best job the Air Force could have given me because I was so interested in it, and it was the worst job the Air Force could have given me because I was so interested in it. And I was going to go from, leading production teams across the world, having a very like globally focused mission. The things that we would shoot one day would end up on major news outlets home pages the next day. I'm just kind of crazy to be able to like see that happen in real time, even though it was so long ago. And so you felt like you were doing something important. You felt like because everyone in the world was like seeing these things. So like on December 15th, when the actual referendum took place, when everyone woke up, this was in 2005, and they saw the little like purple fingers on the Iraqis voting, that was because I had 86 people deployed throughout all of, or forward deployed all throughout Iraq at polling sites. And my job was to tell one of two stories. One, democracy was prevailing, go out and vote. Or two, the insurgents have found the polling locations and everyone's getting massacred. Fortunately, one happened, but it was neat to see this like play out on again a global stage. So very long answer to your simple question of wanted to get out. I wanted to go do something entertainment. I wanted to continue like producing and creating content and storytelling. And so I just blindly left the military and I moved to Los Angeles. And I got there the very first day that the first writer's strike happened. We are just at the end of the second writer's strike.
Mhm.
So just like this one right now, the first one shut down Hollywood immediately when I first stepped foot out here. Here being four
Goodness,
weeks ago before I moved
what
here.
a small wrench in your plans.
It was. I had gotten a job interview on the set of the Fox lot to go do behind the scenes documentary work on shows like 24. And I remember the question that I was asked in the interview was, you've done this in combat. You've like talked to generals and ambassadors and all kinds of. You can handle a drunk Kiefer Sutherland, and I was like, yeah, I can do whatever. That entire department got shut down the very next day when the writer's strike hit. Yeah, kind of sad.
So when you were getting out, were you showing them your resume? Did that open, so your military experience did open some doors
So
for you?
it did because there there's a very small contingency of the reserve combat cameras that actually have like day jobs out in Hollywood.
Okay.
Um, and so I was able to connect with two people before I left. And then it was, through referral, I was able to get in front of this individual. But that was very few and far between that the military connection was like ultimately like helpful. So I think I shared this with you last time we talked. Hollywood kind of shut down. I ended up on the business side of the entertainment industry. And I was working for Technicolor, which at the time was the largest post-production house in the world. They touched every movie and every TV show in post-production in some way, shape, or form. And someone found out about, or I think HR found out about my military experience because I went to go apply for a job that was a little bit higher than where I was working. And they said, why do you think you could do this job as compared to what you're doing right now? And this job was making the Blu-ray menu sequence for, I think, the re-release of The Lion King. And it is a massive, massive undertaking because there's all these like extra features and tidbits and different like regioning and audio tracks. It's massive. Like I've seen like walls of like the diagrams of how these things used to work, especially for a client like Disney. And I was like, well, I mean, I was until this job, I was a communications officer leading X, Y, and Z, operating X, Y, and Z. And as I'm like explaining this, and I said, and I have all these report cards from my time in, I'd be happy to like share those. And this is proof that I can handle a team or be part of a team, deal with a lot of stress, et cetera, et cetera. And the feedback I got afterwards was um, through the grapevine, something the effect of this person thinks his military experience like translates into this or whatever, and my estimation is they feel entitled to be able to try for new jobs, right? And it was weird feedback to get, and it made me actually say, oh, that's right, and this world doesn't understand what I did. That comic camera story got me into a lot of rooms once I started like networking, but at your like run of the mill, I need a job to pay for rent, etc. level that I was kind of at however I'm in my 20s or something at that point. Um, it was very much like, oh, I better hide this because this is not something that they get or want to understand or can like do anything with.
Gotcha. Yeah, because my perception, like Hollywood, doesn't really, there's not a lot of veterans there. And if they are, it's more like, I know there's like veterans in media that,
So much, so much change since my like very
oh,
early days of knocking on doors. Yeah, even like a couple short years later, Veterans in Media and Entertainment started, and it was so well run and has done such amazing things to groom an individual for any aspect of the film industry. So much so that like organizations like Comcast and HBO, Lionsgate, they will like put job offerings specifically out to VME to get people to come in and start their entertainment career. And that is insane because if I had that, I would have done all the dumb stuff I did for the better part of like, I don't know, 6, 7 years, something like that, before I ended up at We're the Mighty.
and so what through that those bad years, I mean, I'm sure it shaped you, gave you lots of character, right? But
Yeah.
what were kind of like the steps you were taking, and what was your ultimate goal? Was it just to kind of in survival mode
No,
in this industry, or did you
no,
have an end goal?
I mean, so that was part of the problem. Part of the problem was I didn't have enough information to understand what a realistic end goal at the time for me looked like because I wasn't trying to become an actor, which is what I would say 90% of military veterans who are going to Los Angeles are like looking to do. Um, but I also like didn't know what. So like technically I was a producer in the Air Force. So I'm in charge of the logistics of getting people from A to B and then making sure the product is or the people that were documenting or whatever the exercise or event, everything is planned out meticulously, like a big project manager, and then all the way to delivery of the final video project, right? I just happened to have a passion for it. I just happened to have like an undergrad degree in it, which kind of made me uniquely qualified for combat camera, which made me uniquely interesting and interested enough to
Mhm.
think I could leave the military and continue doing this in a place like Hollywood. And it was just it was just I didn't have what the VME presents now,
Mhm.
which is here are the many different things you can do, and here's where you start, and here's where you can end, and here's the different like ways your career can move around, etc. It was just like I would go meet with somebody because they wanted to meet the combat camera guy, and I would walk in, show them imagery, and tell them these stories, and they're like, "Wow, this is amazing! Everything you've done. What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I was like, "Maybe you could tell me." And then every time I would say that, I would get the same exact response, which is, "You need to know what it is you want, and then I can help you get to the next level. If you say this, I don't know stuff, then I don't know either." And so,
Mhm.
yeah, so that was a challenging component to it. But again, I ended up more on like the business side, post-production world, and then marketing at Paramount Pictures, and then back to Technicolor again. All these things happened and made me uniquely qualified for when the former head of MTV Films started We Are the Mighty, and that's when I joined that in 2014 as one of the very first employees.
Okay. And so when that was starting up, what was that environment like? Were you like, I'm back with people that speak my language?
It was the most amazing thing ever because I was coming from, the corporate side of entertainment, and David Gale had just started, the concept for this, and it was supposed to be a platform for storytelling for the military community, and there wasn't anything like it. We had yourmilitary.com out there telling news stories, but there was no like real storytelling, story sharing, and the idea was we're going to curate what people in the community liked and then channel it up into TV and film ideas. I mean, it was the most amazing line skipping that I could have ever done to get from I have all these entertainment related skills. How do I go and now make stuff? And it was from A to B real fast. And we were making digital series and meeting with studios like very quickly in those first like very early years. So that was like kind of amazing change. And everyone was from the military community. So it felt like I was home.
Yes, yeah, I could definitely picture that. And when you're saying like you're getting to work on stuff, did you all while you were kind of working in in the industry, like the business side, were you thinking of ideas for projects or were you ever working on stuff on your
I
own?
was so Uh, I wasn't, but I was always trying to help other people work on their ideas. And again, I spent so much time just like, I think, kind of confused with this skill set and thinking that I didn't have as much of a skill set as I really had to be brave enough to go just kind of, I think maybe into a more of a like a production focused environment. And in reality, I was light years ahead of, anyone, freshly coming into it, right? Or even people that were coming in after their like graduate degree or, no, or their undergrad degree or something like that. I was so far along, and for whatever reason, like part of that military component of it back then kept me a little bit more reserved about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. And so you started working for We Are the Mighty, and it was just We Are the Mighty at the
It
time.
was just weird the Mighty for, yeah, from 2014 to 2022 when we got acquired by Recurrent Ventures, who owned a couple of military and defense properties. And so I went from running We Are the Mighty to We Are the Mighty Task and Purpose, The War Zone. Task and Purpose has a 1.4 million subscriber YouTube channel. And then those two events too, Mil Spouse Fest and Military Influencer Conference where I met you.
Ah, okay. And what was that like going from one, company to now all of these different entities
It's
together?
very different, right? I've essentially like joined a very large company at this point, going from the eight of us that were at We Are the Mighty when we got acquired to when we joined Recurrent, there was around 300 people there. So it felt like a fish out of water at first, but um, all the people that work at these different properties have this connection to the military community. So there's still like a close, tight-knit component to, this part of it that is that's great. And the We Are the Mighty team kind of got installed as the sales and what we call like the brand studio team. So we're like, as We Are the Mighty, my team transitioned to kind of running all of the sales for the different properties, and because of that, we were integrated with all of them very quickly.
Yeah, and so does part of you kind of miss the chance to work on things and to, kind of choose
Yes,
projects?
yes. It's being in charge of these other entities has me in way more of a management role than We Are the Mighty. I was doing everything from taking out the garbage to holding a camera to being on camera and everything in between.
Wow. And how did when and where did the Emmy come about?
So right before we got acquired, with some pandemic money, the United States Army Field Band reached out to us to create, no kidding, a music video for the United States Army Field Band, which is their like orchestral ensemble piece that travels around the world, really. And it's kind of a big PR thing and it's a morale thing and all rolled into one. And since they weren't traveling, we made a music video across 7 different locations that aired on CBS affiliate stations right after the Army Navy game in December. So it's the best thing that we've ever created. And we won an Emmy in New York uh, for it. So New York City, which is
Okay.
I think, probably one of the harder regions to get an Emmy out of. So that was also an interesting thing that happened.
And so did you actually get to go to the Emmys, or is that
Yeah,
different?
there's a photo of me up on stage with one of my coworkers, August Donnell, and we went on stage right after Jon Stewart, so it felt really real. Yeah,
That's incredible. And
yeah.
so you've also interviewed some pretty high level people. Ryan was it Ryan Reynolds?
It was Ryan Reynolds, yeah. Ryan Reynolds and Sylvester Stallone. I forget about those things. Yeah, I did that.
What
Uh,
what are they like in person? Are they
Ryan
real?
Reynolds is a little bit more scary, I think, than his very quirky, fun-natured. I think mostly because like he's real busy and doing these. So I'm at these press junkets. That's where we get to interview these people. So we get invited there because I have a large audience in the military community, and this was for Netflix's movie um, Underground Six, and yeah, so he comes in the room and it's like everyone's like very serious, and then like the cameras hit and they're like, you have exactly 40 seconds, ask your questions, don't screw up, look here and look here, you're gonna get the tape from them, no shouting out your network, no doing anything whatsoever, and action. And I'm like, "Wah!" And I'm not a professional like public affairs person or a PR rep or even like an interviewer, so I'm kind of like a deer in the headlights in some instances here, and he was not making it any easier. But I'll tell you who did. Sylvester Stallone was a real sweetheart,
Mm.
and he was terrific. And that was for the last Rambo movie. That was something else.
I I'm so glad to hear that because I know so many people who look up to him and just that's great to hear.
He's very short, so there's not a lot of like physical looking up as much as
What?
yeah, he's tiny.
How how tall is he?
I came up to like here on me, maybe.
What? I always picture him like taller, from the Rocky movies and all that. It's insane.
They use some cinema tricks there.
Yeah, definitely. Same with Tom Cruise, right?
Yep.
So now you also have the Military Influencer Conference, and I know you were a part of the birth of that. So how did that come about?
So I wasn't part of the I wasn't part of the actual like conception of it. We did have our own version of what a military influencer was at We Are the Mighty that was going to be called Mighty Fest, and we got in like along with it. And then
Mm.
Cortez Riggs came up with the military influencer conference, and it started by connecting people that were, I think, in more like the entrepreneurial space and just like looking to do networking. And there was nothing else out there that was kind of quite like it at the time. And it was amazing what he pulled off by himself, very scrappy, bootstrapped everything. Started in Dallas, then went to Orlando, then to DC, and then I went virtual, and then went Vegas, and then this year I'll be in Atlanta. But Cortez called me before the first one. It was like, I will fly you to this thing. Come to this thing, please. I need some support. I don't know I don't know what I need just yet, but I know that I need some version of something that you do, Mark.
Hmm.
And I was like, great, I will be there. And then I just kept showing up to all of them, and it would be the same thing. He'd ask me to come out. Over the years, we started to like provide, I think, like free marketing and outreach through our network. We were writing articles, sharing videos, and promoting on social. But then it wasn't until like right after the pandemic where Cortez came to us as a whole, We Are the Mighty, and said, pandemic's bad for events. So that's kind of hurting where we are right now. Also, I need something that of the 363 days that we're not having the event, I need to be communicating with my event going folk. And so I basically be recreating what you do every day and day out. So why don't we join forces? And so we ended up acquiring the Military Influencer Conference at the end of 2021. And then we got acquired as a whole, we're the Mighty MIC, by Recurrent in the middle of 2022.
Oh, okay. So a lot of acquire, a lot of changing hands, but
Oh,
all
changing
together,
hands.
I've
Yeah,
heard that. I've heard great things about the Military Influencer Conference, which is why I went, and that things have remained, just keep
yeah,
improving. They're not trying to change too much, but except for making it better.
that's
So
right.
I'm excited. As Michelle just commented, we're already booked. We're going to Atlanta.
That's great.
Um, I'm excited for it. So you were also, so the reason I'm definitely going is because I did not make it into the Stand To veteran
Okay.
program this year, but maybe next year. But you were a part of that program, and how was that experience for you with the Bush Institute?
That was amazing. I had applied in the fourth year that they were doing it, and I knew some real like heroes of mine in the military space that had gone through the program. And it is tough to get into that. It really is. And there's so many amazing people that I know that have, applied, haven't, many have not made the cut just yet, including you. And it was a really incredible event to be a part of, or a program to be a part of, because you remember back in the military, for me, you would get training all the time to like advance your skill set, your career, your management, your leadership, et cetera, et cetera. And that kind of like goes away unless you do it on your own out in the real world. And so this was one of those kind of like I was enduring like a mandatory version of it. And so over the course of 5 different modules, we would listen to incredible CEOs and leaders of the industry and politicians, cabinet members of President Bush. And it was really amazing to see the vision of what they're doing at the Institute, which is um, many different things. But this particular program is to take groups of us, put us together, make us think and work through some projects, and then send us free into the world with this new network of all these different veteran leadership program alumni, and use each other as we move through our careers to for the betterment of the military community. And I think that's really something special that you really don't see in many other um, opportunities out there. I mean, it really is for the purpose of building an alumni network that can do good in the community.
Yeah, that's why I was so drawn to it, because you can't put a price on the value of a network
Sure.
like that, and you could just everyone with you, you could all just rise together. So I thought that was really cool. I was excited about the modules as well, but who knows? Maybe next year, maybe the year after. The more I talk to people and tell people about it, I've known a few that haven't gotten in, and I was like, wow, you definitely should have. So um, just gotta keep trying.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what what after doing all of this, I want to know what still gets you excited, what keeps your passion going, especially for veterans in this
Uh,
community.
my favorite thing, and I don't know if you were there for the beginning of MIC, but I had the honor of like kicking off the event, and I meant what I said up there, which is anyone at MIC that has a story about something amazing that happened at MIC, I'm all ears. And I encourage people to like hunt me down and then tell me how MIC changed their trajectory. Either they met their future employer there, or they met someone that connected them to something, or they met someone they started a business. We are creating these little or these opportunities for these collisions for people to connect, share, network, etc. And the mixed success stories are really kind of what keeps me going throughout the year. And every time that event MIC kicks off, it like rejuvenates everything that we've been spending all these years like working towards. It's such an incredible event to be a part of.
Yes, it really is. I feel like I have my own MIC success story. Met a lot of great people, including yourself. But I feel like it really did. It really rejuvenated me, and I feel like if we could have like a check-in, maybe even just a virtual thing,
We're
halfway
doing
through.
it
I feel like
right now.
right, this is my dose of Mick that I needed because
Yeah,
we all get in that slump. We all get in that, feel disconnected from all the great things that are happening, and we get down on like the news and the bad things that are happening, but there it's just like such a shining beam of there's good people out here wanting to do good things, and I
so
loved it.
true.
I felt like since I've left the military, I didn't always feel like those were my people, but for the first time I felt like I belonged somewhere, and I was like, yeah. I didn't have to
That is,
explain myself. I just like was understood there, and
yeah,
it's
that's exactly how it feels, and it's really cool. I even bumped into someone I served with who I hadn't seen in, I think, in almost 2 decades, and it's just kind of crazy to like see and see and be in a situation like you just explained, where you have the opportunity to be among like-minded individuals who share the same
mhm.
experiences.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And we think that it's such a big military, it is, but when you're in these sort of spaces, it kind of is a small world, and
Very
everyone
small.
starts to know everyone, and
Yeah.
it's just a really cool. I'm excited for Atlanta, and that is September this year. Why the move to September?
So it's end of September, early October. We have learned some hard lessons about when to have the event, but it's very much controlled by like a venue that's large enough and
Mhm.
not too expensive enough for us to have exactly what we're looking for. And that is confined to, these veteran heavy centers of gravity throughout the US, except for Vegas was just to get people on a plane and come out and celebrate Mick and being back from pandemic time frame.
Okay.
Uh, and then we had it during Veterans Day last year, thinking that we were somehow bigger than Veterans Day. It turns out we are not. Turns out that many different organizations plan for Veterans Day and they're not going to go to the conference because of it. So
Mhm.
we lost out on some like incredible organizations that we're going to have this year. We're very excited about, and so we wanted to bring it earlier than that time frame.
Okay. Could we get any sneak peeks for 2024? These big shots that are coming.
Oh, big shots are coming. Well, I mean, when I say that, we've been growing throughout all the different years, but some of like the larger VSOs have not been there for various reasons. And last year would have been the first time. So like Wounded Warrior Project is one that will be there in force this year, which will be terrific. And some other big brands. We painted ourselves into a corner because we were trying to go up against things like the New York City Veterans Day Parade and things of that nature, right? So we also lost out on like some big keynote speakers, etc. I don't
Mhm.
have any sneak peeks on them just yet, but
How about any
stay tuned.
panels?
How many panels? What about that panel you keep
Yes.
asking me about? We're still working on it.
Okay. Okay. I'm just, here to remind you about it. Just
Squeaky wheel
you
gets
want to know.
the grease.
Yeah, exactly. Letting you know
Yeah.
there's a huge option. I got it all planned out. You don't need any
Okay.
thoughts. Just give me the green light.
All right.
But anyhow, Mark, is there anything else I can help you share tonight as we are coming up on time? I told you it goes by way too fast.
I'm just excited you invited little old me on your live here.
Everyone who's watching, Mark is the humblest guy ever. He was like the person at the event that people should want to get a picture with, and yet he took a picture of me and someone else. I'll never forget that moment because it
I
was
take a
just
lot more photos for people than anything else at that event.
yeah, and you're the big shot there, one of the big shots. So I really appreciated that. You're just a really great person and awesome light in our community. So
Well, thank
thank you.
you. I try.
Yeah, and what was I gonna say? Yeah, so we are coming up on time. Is where can people find I guess any of your various websites?
We are the mighty task and purpose are probably the things that are most close and dear to our community. So find those on social, find them online. A lot of great news, entertainment, you name it. We do it all.
And here's my big question. What is there any promo codes that you can push for the military influencer
Oh,
conference ticket?
that is a good question. How about I will have something for you before we get there?
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Awesome.
sure.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. I hope you have a great week. I want to thank everyone who stopped by, said hi. Yeah. All right. Take care.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.